topics to talk about. Before we get started, we just let the people get in. We are having also this live already. We have around 100 people who registered, 130. So I just want to make sure you guys can hear us. Everything is great, and in a bit we get started. Kubilay, where are you joining us from?
Yeah, normally I'm based in London. Today I'm in Turkey. So with all the lockdown and
nice.
with all the new normal, so I have the chance to spend more time with my family. So I'm together with my parents here in Izmir, which is very next to Greece actually. Where are you, Romeo?
Izmir. I know Izmir.
Where are you?
Yeah. I'm in Transylvania now. I stayed a little bit more after Christmas period. So yeah. What about you guys? I see here Max from Ukraine. Just pop in. Where are you guys from? And slowly we get started. I suppose our live is also on. So without further ado, because we have a bunch of stuff to talk about, we have Poland here. People are starting to just come in. I just want to 1 second share my screen so we can get rolling here. Cool. Give me a sec so we can go into a more organized mode here. Okay, guys, can you give me a thumbs up if you see my screen? Kubilay, can you see my screen? Great.
All good, buddy.
Awesome. Great. So guys, today we will talk more about the B2B enterprise and what makes the difference, because we run a lot of these campaigns with our clients, and also I thought that I bring the superstars here to talk about this, which is Insider, who had a huge growth. Maybe Kubilay would tell us a bit about the company, about himself and his experience. But before we get started, what we will talk about, we will talk a little bit about the differences, a little bit about the sales cycles, what's the difference between B2B and B2E proposals, then about the competencies needed for B2B enterprise sales, team and structure. And then you guys are on. Like, you guys, if you prepare the questions, I can even put you live, and you can put the questions right away. So before we get started, I know it's these times of pandemic and this crazy period where you are in many webinars. I know that, but try to be here. Close those tabs, because this is the way you will learn the best. And try to put things in action, right? Like, don't just go out of this without putting the learnings in action. And ask the questions. We are here now, we will be here later, so we can just put in the question for later purposes. On this webinar, what you will learn, the biggest difference between sales and B2B, between B2B and B2E, what it takes for tech business to make a B2E deal. And this is very exciting for me to understand from Kubilay's experience, and first-hand insights working with world biggest brands, because you have some big brands out there, Kubilay, that you work with. And also obviously we can continue some of them into a one-to-one basis discussions. So my name is Romeo. I am here managing growth in Man Digital and also for B2B tech companies. So I'm doing this for almost 6 years. I started in sales. I do sales. I am like a marketing body, but with a sales heart. Kubilay, tell us more about you. Who are you? Why are you? How you started with this great journey with Insider?
Sure, man. Sure. Thank you very much for one more time, by the way, for this webinar. I think it's great to be able to give back to the community. And as you said, there are a lot of webinars going on right now. Hopefully that's not going to be another boring one. I truly hope. So first, maybe I can tell a bit about myself. My name is Kubilay. Everybody calls me Kubi. I know Romeo from ISEC. ISEC played a vital role in my student times to unlock the leadership skills, to be able to know world is a bit bigger than your home country, and to meet with other people, which truly, I think, to broaden your vision, right? So I'm the managing director Europe for Insider. I'm based in London. I'm taking care of our operation in, we have offices in Paris, in Amsterdam, in Barcelona, in London, also Warsaw. I lived, I think, in Warsaw for more than 2 years. Now, I don't have any home for the last 3 years. I travel, all the time, maybe every 2 or 3 days before pandemic. Sometimes I'm changing 3 countries a day, the waking up one place, having another meeting, and going back somewhere else. And I used to work at Ernst & Young and Accenture before joining Insider. Maybe I can tell you a bit about Insider as well.
Please.
We started in 2012. Fast forward 9 years right now, we are in 25 countries, meaning that we got physical offices. So we cover full Asia, like Tokyo, Japan, the Seoul, Korea. Then you go, Vietnam, Indonesia, the Singapore. And when you come to Europe, we got the offices that I mentioned. Last year, we started in Brazil and in US. We are roughly 700 people. We are backed by Sequoia Capital and as well as Riverwood Capital. We got our Series C almost, I think it has been 9 months, 10 months, and somewhere around more than, I think, like less than $50 million in funding. We have what we call Grow Management Platform. What does it mean, Grow Management Platform? So when you look at the B2C marketeers today, they got roughly 4 different funnels. They want to acquire customers first through acquisition funnel, through CPC, and different bits from Google and Facebook. That's not enough. They want to activate them, so they got their activation funnels. Activation could be driving the first transaction, capturing the email, or it could be making them fill up the form or signing up them to the loyalty program. Still, it is not enough for them. They want to retain those customers to drive repetitive purchase behavior or transaction behavior. So they got their retention funnels. And still that is not enough. They need to increase the lifetime value of those customers. So they got the revenue funnels with cross-sell and an upsell. So Insider's Growth Management Platform understand customer data points coming from different touch points, mobile app, desktop web, mobile web, you name it, as well as the offline touch points. We process this data in real time to build segments with our predictive segmentation, and eventually give marketeers the best possible segments that they can target on an every single touch point to increase certain metrics like average order value, conversion rate, or LTV or CAC. So, and we optimize it. We work with more than 800 brands as of today. So they include the likes of Estée Lauder Group, Singapore Airlines, Adidas, Decathlon. So, most of the biggest players that you may assume most probably in every vertical, either using us or about to use us, I truly hope. And that depends on our sales team. And that's a bit about the technology as well.
Great, Kubilay. So that gives you an intro of the experience here. But before we so what I want to do is to just have it really chilled out, have questions, and just discuss about B2E. But before we do that, we need to understand a little bit what's behind B2B enterprise. And the best guys to talk to us about B2B buying, in my view, is Gartner, right? So Gartner, as you might know, guys, is a huge research company, and what they looked at in the last years is they see that 77% of the B2B buyers, so not us, the sellers, the people who buy from us, feel that the whole purchasing journey, it's complex and difficult. So it's not only us saying that, because many times us the service providers are complaining about it, but that's a huge like we need to understand that this is a huge numbers also on their side. And I will go a little bit in detail why is that. Another one, which I think it's obvious, but we need to put it out there, is that in B2B buying, as you can see, like 17% of the actual potential suppliers have meetings with the sales guys. And there is a huge number of referrals, is huge number of researching independently. So those purchasing collective, those buyers that are having a collective use. And if we look at the B2B buying, like the jobs to be done, and Kubilay, you can tell me if you can see the same experience, like just for us to understand. It's obviously first is the problem identification. So those companies need to identify, need to know that they have a problem, right? In many cases, as sales guys, we have the situation where they don't even know that they have that problem, right? And many times we have this thing, right? Like we sell ABM, we sell B2B marketing services or inbound. They don't even know what's inbound, and they don't even know that that can be a solution, right? But assuming that they know that problem identification, then we have the solution exploration. Then they start to build some requirements, and then they have the supplier selection. But above that, you have validation. You need to validate that solution for that company. And also very importantly, that we sometimes ignore is the consensus creation. Like you need to create a consensus within the organization, within the company, that they buy that supplier or they try to find a solution for that problem, which is through buying committees. And then if we go into a more deeper understanding of this, we can see that it's the journey that we have and the complexity of B2B sales. It's enormous. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, guys, what I'm showing you here, because we have things like what are the touch points that one is going through. I really recommend you to go on Gartner's website, just put B2B buying journey, download their PDFs, and really understand this complexity of things, because I think it's something that you can help you and understand. But
Maybe I can add one point to the previous one.
yeah,
Romeo,
please.
is okay for you. So I think there are two sort of, like, of course, every generalization is wrong, including that one. But on the very high level, to put some perspective, there is reactive buying behavior and there is proactive buying behavior. So what you are showing here is more like proactive buying behavior, where the buyer already identify a certain problem, and then they are basically following up the steps. That's usually, as you see from the Gartner as well, follow up with RFPs. They are looking to find the best possible solution to that given, the problem that they are facing. Then there is reactive buying cycles as well. Sometimes, for example, at Inside, we have that sort of cycles too, where the certain title is not aware of the problem that they are facing. And you as a salesperson, which is one of the toughest thing to do, by the way, to be able to create the need. And once you create the need, then they do understand, oh yes, as you said, we got this problem, hence how I'm going to find the best possible solution to that given problem that I face. And most of the time, I will add one more step, is like the educating the market on that given problem. And usually the one that educates the market, usually the becoming the winner of such the problem to be fixed as well. So sometimes any insiders, we usually sell to CMOs, by the way, I think, which is important, because some other salespeople, maybe they sell to CTOs, they sell to the product people, which is a bit different than selling to the CMOs and marketing people. Your ability to make them figure out the problem if they are not aware as well is super important, and you need great salespeople to achieve that. So.
Thanks. So Kubilay, the first question for you is, in your view, what is the biggest difference between now B2B and B2 enterprise sales?
I think let's take a look at it from two angles, Romeo. I'm wondering what is your take on this one as well. Like on our side, I will look at from first upper funnel point of view, then the lower funnel point of view. What does it mean upper funnel? We as Insider, I think we got more than 100 sales people up and running right now in the organization, and we are super outbound led. So almost I will say, we got 70% outbound to 30% inbound, meaning that most of the opportunities that we created with the cold calling and as well as ABM efforts of our marketing and as well as sales team. So when you look at enterprise, when you are prospecting, especially since the organizations are super big, your ability to prospect properly and eventually reach out to the relevant people with the relevant content is super important. So we do a lot of personalization at the upper funnel, and we almost go to one-to-one level sort of personalization with our outreach, to at the very top of the funnel, so that we can basically get their attention and eventually sit in the same room together with them. Remember, you showed the Gartner, only 17% of the people is able to meet with the sellers at the end of the day. So it is super important that your SDR function is functioning in a way that it is able to capture the interest of the buyer with going extra mile. So I think that's the very first difference that I will mention. The second thing that I will mention, most probably at B2B, let's say SME space, you got one buyer, you reach out to that, and eventually try to close the deal on the back of it. When it comes to enterprise, it is more saturated. So there is a user level buyer, there is the economic buyer, there is a technical buyer. So your ability to navigate in between different buyer, the personas, and to be able to find the best selling point for each personas, I think it defines your chance of closing that deal or not. I think the third thing that I will mention as well is definitely your ability to create a momentum. So when it comes to the sales cycle, which I think we will discuss, let's say the SME sales cycle is 1x. And I'm speaking from insider point of view. We don't sell to SMEs, we rather sell to mid-market, which is a bit bigger than SMEs for sure. If the mid-market is 1x as a sales duration, or enterprise deals is 6x. So then when I have, the weekly bottom funnel, the forecasting calls with my team, I always tell them time kills deals. So your ability to build the momentum out there and to be able to nurture your contacts.
Correct.
And building momentum is not necessarily selling fast and constantly driving urgencies to make them buy. Your ability to synchronize you together with your marketing team, how you nurture them by creating a value, and your ability to keep them warm and to drive the momentum, not necessarily making them sign the contract every day, but to make sure that this need is being nurtured, is super important. I think most of the folks out there usually struggle with that one. So they do not know how to nurture and how to keep the momentum with the enterprise deals. That's something we spend a lot of time educating our sales team as well. I would say those are the 3 points. And one last thing is the logistic, Romeo. When they decide they are going to buy, it's a bit different than the SME organization. They have security, the requirement.
Risk management.
Like the how they got procurement team. You need to know how you are going to deal with the procurement team, and all that logistics is, I think, completely different comparing to even mid-market deals. Forget about SME itself. So those are the 4 things that I would mention most probably is the biggest difference, buddy.
And this is you talked about personalization, and I know that you guys personalize a lot, even the proposals, and we will go there. But I feel that this is key because, and this is where account-based marketing comes along. And what I see is that in B2B, having lower tier value and lower tier clients, maybe one is that we are maybe not educated well enough on how to deal with those B2E. That's another topic. But I feel that we try to close them very fast, and because of that, we tend to be very pushy and we don't personalize. And when we deal with enterprise, it's also the whole nature of a big organization where you need time to to digest all the information. I suppose that it requires you by default a bunch of personalization from all the stages of the sales funnel. And I mean here personalization, I suppose that you guys do the same, but like if you go on a fashion vertical, then all the marketing is talking about fashion. You have the case studies about fashion. You have the stories of the companies about fashion. Your benchmarks is about fashion. Your pitch decks is about fashion. Your use cases is about that. You know how to talk to the procurement and to risk management because you had already fashion companies and so on and so forth. So all the due diligence that you do needs to be around the vertical, right? And also the
One
benchmarking.
step further, I will go, Romeo. I mean, in our business, of course, as being a personalization company for B2C companies, we like to show on B2B efforts as well that personalization matters. So forget about fashion itself, then you will go with the sub verticals. Like, for example, fast fashion is different than slow fashion. What does it mean?
Exactly.
Answer.com, for example, in Poland will be selling completely different than DZ. So the fast fashion is again different than the slow fashion. Then you go beyond verticals, you talk about titles. CRM managers got a different lingo than the performance marketing managers. So are you able to speak the lingo of the buyer out there as well? Then you go to the third level. For example, you as Romeo, you are talking to the companies like Insider, right? To eventually upscale their B2B marketing game. If I'm using HubSpot plus Salesforce or Marketo, the way that you will talk to me will be a bit different than a company that is using nothing out there as for their B2B
Correct.
efforts. So what is your ability to personalize your pitch based on their tech stack as well? So, and we can go beyond. So I think the personalization has no limits. And I always tell it to my team as well. If you really want to show your respect to the people, it's not happen with the words. It needs to be with an action as a salesperson. So what is your ability to go extra mile out there to keep those facts in mind that we mentioned and to personalize that given deck, personalize that given cold call, personalize that given LinkedIn, the approach, because they get another 10,000, the messages out there why they would pay attention to you if you don't do that. So I think it is super critical.
Cool. Guys, meanwhile, while we talk, we have also some questions that we received before. But if you have questions, you can put them in while we are going through this. So we don't need to wait till the end of the whole webinar, right? But meanwhile, I go on with the next things, because uh, the next one is more around let me see, the typical sales cycle, right? Like, what's that typical sales cycle in a B2B and in a B2E? Like, what do you see like the biggest differences?
Yeah, let me unmute myself. So I think speaking on the previous topic, we mentioned that to some certain extent. So definitely, this is a high touch sales process. What does it mean, high touch? So let's think about your SME sales. Again, this is me speculating on that given fact, since I do not know it very much. I would assume, with 2 to 3 touches, you will be able to bring that deal home. So looking at the different sources out there in the internet. So when you look at B2B enterprise, it takes us at least 13 14 touches to bring that deal home. And then the 13 14 touches with so many different teams, and so many different teams have so many different goals. So again, every time you need to prepare, you need to be able to present. So that puts the sales cycle to be the longer than the comparing to mid-market and SME sales. Before joining the webinar, I take a look at our CRM. So we do month-to-month forecast. So meaning that what are we closing this month, next month, and 2 months after. So, and our CRM is built in a way that I can see how many times that deal has slipped, what is the total, the days that that deal is sitting in our opportunity pipeline. I think the oldest opportunity out there that we are closing this month is sitting there already more than 250 days. So it has been 250 days that we have a meeting with them, and finally they are signing with us right now. So again, that gives you a bit of an understanding how you will be able to deal with that process and to keep up the
So
momentum
I'm
out there.
just curious, what do you do? And we can go back to this. What do you do before that? 250, because I suppose you need to have some kind of engagement strategies with those
Correct.
guys, right?
Correct. Correct. So we have named account structure, Romeo. So that depends on, of course, which market that you operate in. What does it mean, named account structure? So every account executive and SDR, they have a certain accounts that they are owning. So, and they usually have, let's say, 100 to 150 accounts, and they are responsible. The same named accounts is owned by marketing team as well. So they need to work together to be able to target them through the meanings of digital advertising. Let it be LinkedIn, let it be the remarketing side of the things, with the content through the events, webinars, and you name it, right? So all that different bits. Meanwhile, when it comes to the sales team and SDR and account executive, they do direct sell and the cold prospecting. So when it comes to the cold prospecting to those named accounts, we have a bit of a different approach. SDRs usually go to the user level contacts. So they try to prospect into what would be a potential user for the tool. Meanwhile, account executives, they go to more upper level CMO, CXO level. So at the CXO, CMO level, you more talk about the concepts. For example, you don't go to CMO and you say that, oh, that's a fantastic feature. I think you will benefit from that. CMOs are more inclined, or CXOs more inclined towards concept. What does it mean? Hey, we will get you most out of the artificial intelligence, making sure that you target your the high propensity to buy customers. So rather than talking about the features, you talk more about the concepts. Meanwhile, at the SDR level, you talk more about functionalities and what they can get out of it with the user level contacts, because that's what they care most. And ideally, sales team and marketing work so much hand to hand. So while marketing is putting the right message, then SDR is to be able to follow that up as well. So obviously, then on the back
So
of the
what do you use for this? Use Salesforce or HubSpot, or what do you use?
We are operating on Zoho, plus we got HubSpot, plus we got the different tools that we are using out there. We got a bit of an unorthodox stack comparing to a company at our scale, I would say. But we like to build things custom, and this is how we roll a bit, I would say, Romeo.
Cool. Great, thanks a lot for that. Because that's really insightful. Guys, I just want to have a question before we get going. Usually I put this the beginning, but we got so much rolling into this topic that I forgot, to be honest. So tell us a bit, if you even do enterprise, right? Like, do you run B2B marketing or B2B enterprise? And tell us a bit what actually describes you best. Like, are you in a software house? Are you a SaaS? Are you working in marketing but neither of those, and so on? And also tell us a bit about your company. Like, what was the size of your company? That would really help us a lot. So Kubilay, we have here majority of the people are between 50 and 200 employees. So this is the team that we have, and majority of people are from the software houses. So just for us to know, and it's half. Like, some people run enterprise campaigns and some don't. Just for you to understand a bit who we have in the in Zoom. Obviously, we cannot do the same poll also in LinkedIn. Cool. So thanks a lot, guys, for that. It's really helps us understand what we have here. So now, as we know, B2B enterprise, B2B overall, it's not the same competencies, right? So you need to have a particular competencies. Can you tell us a bit about what you see as a different competencies, what you see as same competencies in B2B and B2B enterprise, and what are the competencies that you try to develop in your sales team? So even if they didn't sell enterprise, then you are trying to develop in them, because I know you guys are really good in training.
Yeah. So we hire different sort of profiles, Romeo. So we hire unexperienced salespeople and also experienced salespeople. So when it comes to SDRs, we like to hire them rather inexperienced people and like to educate them ourselves through insider school of sales. Then when it comes to account executives, usually we look for the domain expertise on our side. So how do we eventually build some competencies? So we have sales readiness team. So what does it mean, sales readiness team? Once we hire you, we have a dedicated onboarding program. For SDRs, it's a total of 3 weeks. For account executives, it's a total of 4 weeks. So it is a self-learning platform that we have built with our internal resources, with the content itself. So we are using a certain tools to train them asynchronously, meaning that they do go through the content there.
So what are the competencies that you look at when you hire these junior guys?
Yeah, curiosity. intellectual curiosity is number one thing, Romeo. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, SDRs are coming, and let me explain what is intellectual curiosity. Maybe it's not clear for everyone. What is your ability to be able to learn something that you don't necessarily need to learn, and what is your
Mm-hmm.
motivation to do that? For example, let's imagine that tomorrow we are pitching to Adidas, and you are as an SDR, you are trying to book that meeting with Adidas. Then I ask you how you are going to reach out to them. Everybody says that I'm going to check their website, I'm going to check their LinkedIn, I'm going to check their Twitter, and I look for guys that says, Kubi, you know what? I'm going to go to Adidas's annual report. I'm going to figure out what they are saying in their annual report about their e-commerce growth and what are the goals that they have defined out there. So what is the intellectual curiosity out there that makes them to learn something about that given brand that the others may not necessarily know? That's super important for me. I think that's number one that I will mention. Second one is I think I'm a Mediterranean guy. We built the company a bit being romantic, I would say, as well. Also, rest of the co-founders. Being a good person is super important for us, Romeo. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't create any value for the people that is out there in the call, but just for them to know, we don't hire people with no good heart, which may sound a bit silly to some certain extent, but we really pay attention if that person has a good character. And I think the third thing that I will mention is, of course, on the hard skill and soft skill side, we do expect people to have different things. But what is your ability to create a momentum? As I mentioned, momentum. So what is your track record of success? If you are a account executive, then we will look for your previous target achievements. Then we will look at if you sold to a similar ticket size comparing to us. Because every ticket size is a bit of a different buying journeys. For example, you go, 1 million plus, then you deal with procurement more often. It has a different the buying journeys. So we pay attention to that a lot as well from that point of view, referring to account executive side of the things, meaning sales managers, Romeo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Thanks a lot. We are getting also into what you see. That do you see any differences between like B2E competencies and B2B? Like, do you think that there should be? I suppose if you have these juniors of SDRs and then you are pitching Adidas, as you said, you need to have there some account executive like really senior, and they know the lingo of each and every buying committee, members of the buying committee. They know the lingo of Adidas, so on and so forth. So it's not like you can send the SDR and have calls with Adidas, right? So what are those competencies there when you look at those big organizations and approaching them, and each member of the buying committee?
Yeah, sure. You need to know your product very well. So that's, I think, number one P. The P number two is, I think, process. So your ability to deal with the processes and how you navigate in between, different processes. Adidas has very certain way of buying and how you are adjusting yourself towards that. And the third thing that I will mention is the people, your people skills, how you are eventually building connections and understanding the, certain challenges of the certain different titles. So when it
Mm-hmm,
comes to,
mm-hmm,
again, SME side of the things, I do not know, of course, I'm not super involved in a way that selling to, I never
mm-hmm,
did it in my life. So I do not know how
mm-hmm,
they are selling. But when it comes to enterprise buying, there are demos involved. There are, again, security teams involved. And your ability to navigate in between those different departments, um, even after, they are sure that they are going to buy you, that can kill your deals so many times. So
mm-hmm.
the buying is one thing, pre-sales, during sales and after sales. I think the account executives have, required very certain skills to be able to navigate in that given deal, Romeo.
Mm-hmm. And would you look for someone who had experience in selling to fashion, or would those account executive be siloed in, okay, these guys are only doing I don't know, fashion, these guys are doing only finance, insurance, these guys are doing automotive?
Yeah, it's very much up to you as a sales organization and I think what you are selling. So what you mentioned is more like vertical based territory approach that you are mentioning.
Yeah.
Some of them operates that fashion, some of them operates with the product based territory fashion. For example, some people are selling X product, meanwhile some other sales people selling Z product, or some of them has the territory approach based on geography. So some people selling to Krakow, meanwhile some others are selling to Warsaw. When it comes to us, you need to keep your own product and on buyers in mind. I don't like any of them. I want everyone to be able to sell to everyone, because that helps you scaling hiring efforts of you. Imagine that if you are trying to hire someone only selling to fashion, it's a bit tougher than hiring a good sales person in general. So we don't have the vertical based approach. We have more like geographic approach. So what does it mean? We have countries as a geography. So we have an office in Warsaw that is selling to whole Poland and every different vertical out there that we are working. Then same for the UK. It's more like on the country level geography that we have. But meanwhile, as you said, every certain vertical has a different lingo. We spend great amount of time at Insider to train people around that sort of things. So we got weekly what we call sales university. So every week we cover one vertical at least, and we got STR University every week as well. So that's total of 2 hours where we talk about best practices and as well as the failures of every single team, and making sure that whole organization is learning on the back of that.
Cool. So now we are getting into the audience questions. We have a bunch of them, but the first is, in your view, what's the enterprise decision-making process like? That's the question I have here.
Yeah. So when you look at the enterprise decision-making process, of course, again, I think like we have a specific product selling to a specific department. It's on the user level. User level is, let's put it this way: user level buyer, technical buyer, and economic buyer. So user level is looking at on the decision-making side of the things. If that given functionality that you have, yes, the functionality that I have will give me the incremental impact for the business that I have. Then economic buyer is obviously looking from the economic perspective of it, and what is the return on investment that we are spending here. So what is your ability to eventually make them understand the ROI, and as well as what are the economics behind it. Third one is the technical buyer. Technical buyer is more looking from integration standpoint, how I'm going to integrate that from security point of view, if it is secure enough for my business. So how that process looks like, I think it depends on what sort of an organization that you are selling and what sort of different buying personas that they have available out there. And for each of them, decision-making process is a bit different. So on the user level, they will map up the existing, the functionalities that you have. They may run a proof of concept when it comes to that, to see the impact of the tool, and if you are capable of delivering upon your promises. Then economic buyer may ask you to come up with different forecasts and the projections. Meanwhile, technical buyer would ask a lot of documentation and as well as certificates, ISOs, the like pen test, penetration test, all that different bits. So decision making is completely different at each of them, and all of them is looking into a different certain, the thing to be verified.
Cool. Thanks a lot, guys. We are going quite fast, then you can have the recording, but the idea is that we have a bunch of questions and we want to make sure we tackle each one of them. The question that you send us, or the ones that you have here. So what's the best outbound tactic that you find efficient when targeting enterprises? It's a very specific question from a software house.
Yeah. So as I said, we are mostly outbounding at Insider, and we got STRs. I think the most effective way is obviously you use different stuff. You use phone, you use email, you use LinkedIn, use the marketing activities as well to eventually interact with people through field marketing activities. So what is the most effective is obviously for us the STR function. So we get most of our meetings directly through our STRs. And when it comes to STRs, they are doing the cold prospecting out there. And of course, with so much personalization out there and spending a lot of time on every single lead to craft the best possible content. So for us, the most effective way is to scaling our SDR team and hiring more SDR. So at Insider, we operate with 1-to-1 ratio. What does it mean? we got one SDR for every one account executive, which is usually
Mm-hmm.
1-to-3 ratio at different organizations. So they got one SDR for 3 account executive.
Yeah.
For us to get most out of our SDRs, we are trying to have them with 1-to-1 ratio with account executives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I suppose that's high efficiency, right?
Correct. Correct.
And what
Correct.
do you see as do's and don'ts of marketing and sales when you target enterprise? Like, what do you see like some big mistakes that people make, or some great things that you saw in the market today?
Yeah. Romeo, why don't you go with that first and I will go with second, because you work with marketing organizations also super closely. I think it will be good to
Yeah.
hear your point of view
So
on that.
for me, the marketing part, like um, the don'ts, is definitely what I see lately is overkilling the ebook funnels, right? Like creating a bunch of content just for with the idea of a lead gen, right? And absolutely no giving any kind of value, and no giving any value in terms of what's in that ebook itself. So I see this happening all the like a lot lately. um, so I think this needs to change, because we need to go much more in an account based approach, meaning that we need to understand that, okay, if we create a research or a white paper, or we need to own some kind of data of our own that we share with our audience, that can give them valuable, insightful content that only we could have. So that could be, I don't know, you had a tool like Insider, look at some data in the background, anonymize it, and do some research around it, right? And that's something like super insightful that only the guys at Insider could do. Okay, you're a software house, do a survey, do a survey of CTOs in fintech. Put some very specific questions on those. Anonymize the projects that you did with any kind of clients like fintech, for example, and take out the learnings that you had from those very specific problems and the very specific solutions. That, so the idea here is to not copy, and because content marketing is all about curation, right? Like you take some kind of bit of information from somewhere, you change it a bit, and then you put it somewhere else. Again, this is abundance of content, and unfortunately for the guys who are doing it, is just waste of time. It doesn't work. Maybe it worked in 2008 when SEO was there, but for lead gen, I would not recommend doing that, but more take your own data. And that's something that I see that many people do, and I really think that we should stop doing that. And on sales side, Kubilai, what are the things like do's and don'ts that you see?
I think on that side, maybe what I can say about sales could be a bit tied up to your marketing comment as well. So sales people are out there in the field. They know why they are losing opportunities and why they are winning opportunities at the very same time. So what are the commonalities of the opportunities that you lost? For example, let's say that the prospect didn't think that we could do X. Then knowing that most probably there are other prospects that will think the same and most probably struggling with the same problem. So what is your ability as a sales team to take it to the marketing team and tell them, look, we need to build something around this, knowing that this is helping us to close, the won vs close lost. So and to be able to build the content, I think, on the back of that. Then what I would say is point B is you are winning deals. Most of the time people, they do not understand why they are winning deals and the commonalities in between that, the given deals. So then you need to be a bit the sharp on this one, figure out what are the commonalities. For example, you say that, hey, we are winning a lot of travel opportunities lately for the OTA websites. You do not understand why this is happening, and once you understand it, double down on this and make your SDR to prospect into that given vertical with a specific content, specific the pain point that you have identified, and try to get most out of it. And give the same brief to the marketing team so they build their ebooks, their the webinars around that as well, which will enable you to close more. So I will let the 2 points on the top of what you have mentioned, Romeo.
Cool. Thanks a lot. So Maria Laura asked us a lot of questions here about so she has two questions. One is, what do you think to propose a pilot project to a B2E potential client?
Yeah.
Is this something that
Everybody have a different
works?
approach towards this. So if you go to Salesforce, I do not know what will be their tech, but most probably they will say, no, we don't offer pilots, proof of concepts, that sort of bits. Me personally, and our company, we believe buying should be easy. Buying should be convenient, and we need to make it for the buyer as simple as possible to get inside the technology up and running. And your ability to run a pilot will help them to create a business case way easier, and that will increase your chance of closing that deal as well if you know how to run the pilots together with the client.
Mm-hmm,
So if you got a skill set within the organization, if you have built your muscles and the processes that will allow you to run the proof of concept with your clients, I think that's single-handedly the best thing that you can do for your sales organization. So
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
am super inclined towards that given idea, and we do champion that at Insider a lot. So,
mm-hmm.
but some people say that if you make enterprise to buy, running a proof of concept makes you look cheaper, that sort of bit. I think it's just a point of view which I don't agree, and it's just for them to know. But at Inside, we try to make it as simple as possible for our counterparts to get our technology up and running. So I think I'm in with that idea, Maria.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And her next question is, which marketing strategy or sales strategy is better for B2E, inbound or outbound? But I suppose here the answer is, Maria, is that both.
Yeah.
Exactly what Kubilai said, that what they do is that marketing is working on those accounts, but in parallel also sales is working on those accounts, and they have a synergy, they have a sync of, okay, what kind of messages does marketing do out there, and what is the message that the sales is doing. So I really think it needs to be synced, and that's why ABM programs can help you a lot, because they are the starting point of aligning the two teams and on aligning these strategies. So I would go
I don't think you
with
can
both
afford
of those.
doing only one thing when you are saying to the enterprise. And I'm saying one thing, not necessarily only for marketing. You cannot say, I'm going to do either inbound or outbound. So you have to do both of them, first of all. Then beyond that, your product team needs to be salesperson. Your marketing team needs to be salesperson. So selling to enterprise, your whole organization needs to think as a sales organization itself. And what does it mean to make it more practical? How much your product team is listening to the market and coming up with that next feature? They are part of the sales team. They will make the buying easier, knowing that they are building that given feature. So your marketing team, if they do not measure the opportunities that they are creating, and if they are not putting the best possible content in front of their potential buyers, how you are going to drive the inbound. So everybody needs to think, I think,
Mm-hmm.
as more like the sales team within the organization to sell to enterprise. And it's never either's or out there. So you need to be able to do both of them, everything as a whole organization.
So here's the scenario, Kubilai, that I see a lot of times. So we have some tech founders. They met in university. They build a software house, right? One is CEO, the other one is CTO. Both of them finished engineering. No prior marketing or sales experience at all. Uh, because the market is going so well for the tech industry and everybody needs developers and so on and so forth, they grow a lot organically. And because they're really good, they start to get referrals. So they get referrals, so they grow to this, I don't know, 100 people company. Yeah, so they are 100 employees, 100 developers. But prior to that, no strong marketing or strong sales processes, right? So it's all about referrals. And now they realize that, okay, I cannot grow more on referrals, because is there, the number of people that I can be referred to, it's limited, right? So you cannot rely on that for growth. So, but my previous clients were enterprise. Yeah, like I did some pretty cool clients, like these are sexy companies. What would you suggest to such founders if they want to get started with sales enterprise with no prior experience before? I know it's a tough one, but you're muted, by the way. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me, Romeo?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
Look.
Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you.
So
I think you
there is a
moved
bit of a
and you don't.
connection problem, but I got the question, by the way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
do
am
it.
here at the same place. I got your question. There is a bit of a delay. Yeah, sorry for this. So I think on that side, when I think, for those tech founders, what they need to do, there is a lot of content, Romeo, especially to be able to sell to enterprise on what they need to do. I think my encouragement will be, for example, I do love Jason Lemkin. So Jason Lamkin is the SaaS TR, the previous founder will sell EchoSign to Adobe, and an amazing, the SaaS, the godfather out there. So when you go out there, he got amazing tips. Hiring your very first VP of sales, figuring out how you need to start the sales. So, and how you are going to go beyond your network and start selling to create a scale out there. So rather than me and listening my words, maybe it's better to take a look at those guys out there, and I'm sure that the content will be the guiding for those people. Then maybe the second thing that I will mention on the top of it, sales is super tough. It's not easy. It's not for everyone as well. Sometimes your psychology won't be able to to handle that, or your expectation from that the sales operation may not be as the what you have expected with the outcome. So to have a patience, but at the very same time to know the concept very well, that they can keep those salespeople accountable if they are going to run this function on their own without hiring VP of sales, and to learn. So I think sales is an ongoing and ever-changing concept. Speaking to the domain knowledge of it, the sales is maybe same for so many years. So what if you are going to run this on your own? What resources that you are putting and to learn the concept itself rather than doing the guesswork? Because at the end of the day, salespeople wants to work with the best people, and if you end up not telling them and giving them the right guidance, will be super tough time to retain them in the organization. Since you mentioned the software houses, the country that I struggle most to hire is Poland. Super hard to find great sales skills, great sales people. They are always working somewhere else. You need to basically get a lot of passive search to get them on board. Mostly they are working at another company that they really love. So if you end up trying to recruit a sales guy without knowing sales or without having VP of sales, you will struggle a lot. So I do struggle a lot, for instance, hiring out there. So it will be super tough.
Got it. Great. So I think we are kind of ending this discussion. So to conclude, it's all about alignment. More alignment you have, more you can have the same processes, understanding the lingo of each buyer personas, and also on verticals, and even maybe going deeper of sub verticals, as Kubilay said, so fashion and then fast fashion or other type of verticals. This is very important to understand. We need to go out there and understand that, because this is something that will be harder and harder, I suppose, when we are doing this remote work, right? Do you see, Kubilay, the last question, because this was put many times regarding remote, do you see a big no, let me rephrase it. What would be your recommendation to salespeople out there that are doing today remote sales and they cannot make those meetings anymore? Like, what's any kind of recommendation?
It is super tough for me as well, Romeo. So I'm more like, I like to go and handshake people, and I want to be in the same room with them and, do that sales face to face. So moving to the Zoom and to be able to sell on video, I think the toughest thing is to be able to connect with people and to be able to, you know, build that emotional connection. So I think they need to spend more time with chit chats to understand the counterpart and to build that, you know, the human contact, which is, I think, the toughest thing right now with that video not being available in the same room. So I try to spend a lot of time to develop that skill of mine to be able to connect with people over the video, with that, you know, the mimics and then everything is gone. I think the second thing is, if you are in a company where the you know, demo is part of the sales process, to be able to demo over the Zoom and over, you know, the Google Chat, Google Meet, you need to develop a certain skill set to be able to check in with people without losing them and making it a boring experience. So I think selling is a bit different, or a video, and, you know, 2x tougher than, I think, selling face to face. And those are the two things that I spend most of my time: how to demo better and how to emotionally build better connection with people, to stuff, buddy.
Cool. Thanks, buddy. That was really great. Thank you guys for joining in. Teşekkürler arkadaş.
How you are saying it in Romanian, Romeo?
Mulțumesc.
Mulțumesc. And dziękuję
Thanks,
bardzo,
guys. Dziękuję bardzo. And keep in touch. All the best, guys. Bye bye.